Welcome to the World Away.
Travel tales to inspire your wanderlust.
Hi there, I'm your host of the World Away, Kirstie Bedford. Welcome back to our summer series. This week, we're staying in Australia with a weekend in Tassie. But first up, I'm taking you on a deep dive into the pretty coastal region of Noosa on Queensland's Sunshine Coast after I spent a weekend hiking, biking and kayaking in the UNESCO Biosphere Reserve.
Let's start off by giving us a sense of place. Tell us a bit about Noosa and where it is for those who haven't heard of this tropical paradise.
I will, and it was certainly what shocked me is it felt as far as Melbourne as you can get. So Noosa is a shire in Queensland's Sunshine Coast, and part of that shire is Noosa Heads, Noosaville and Noosa Junction, which are all areas that we visited, as well as the Noosa Everglades. So the area is a World Surfing Reserve, and it's also, a lot of people might not know, but a designated UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. And most people come here because, it's a very pretty coastal town and it's got loads of great things to do and see. But, it's probably got more to do than most people even ever imagined, and it certainly did for me.
Well, let's dive right in. So, first of all, where did you stay?
We were staying at a place called the Rise Noosa, which is self-contained luxury apartments, which are literally like 5 minutes from Hastings Street. And in our case, our apartment overlooked the beach in the distance, so beautiful, beautiful sunsets actually. And the blessing of these apartments is that you have a separate lounge, 2 bathrooms and a kitchen, so you can cook your own meals. So, if you're out and about all day, you can just come back and cook yourself something and stay in if you wanted to. And also it has a really good balcony, so you can sit there and sip on a vino and soak up that view that I was talking about. And there's also a 20-metre pool and a spa as well. And if you want a little walk through my room, you can just head over to Kirstie Writes on Instagram and check it out.
Yeah, cool. Although I don't know about cooking on holidays, I reckon a cheese platter is about as much as I'm going to muster. So, which sounds fantastic with that sunset. So, I've got to say, you're a very busy girl in Noosa. Let's talk about how you filled your days up. First up, what was the absolute highlight of the trip?
Okay, so the highlight had to be the whale watching. So I have done whale watching, as you have, all over Australia and New Zealand. But the whale watching here was just really, really special. And I was trying to work out why that was. And I think it's mainly because of Pepe Simpson and her husband, Albie Curtis, who run this whale songs, Noosa whale watching tours. And they've got a 9-metre boat, which is actually certified by the Navy, and they take really small groups out. But the best thing about their boat was, like when you go out on some of these whale watching boats, you're strapped into the boat, and then so you can't really move around. But in their boat, you just wander around wherever you want. And it was such a small group that it was just us, my husband and I, one family and one other couple. So also being in a really small boat, like a 9-metre boat, you can get much closer to the whales. And in Noosa, to see the whales, you're actually relatively close to the shore, which hasn't been the case for me when I've done it in the past. And I hate big waves, so because I get major seasickness. So which is why I'll never go to Antarctica and do the Drake Passage. So this is an absolute blessing for someone like me who doesn't like being out in the rough high seas. So we were so fortunate that when we were there, we had a mother whale and her baby swim right next to us, and the baby came up next to the boat. And so we weren't, they don't obviously go and deliberately try and go close to the whale. So we saw the whales in the distance and we were thinking, oh my God, this is amazing. And the baby flipped its tail in the air and it was doing all sorts of acrobats. And then while we were just sitting there, the baby whale just came towards the boat and then literally was right next to the boat and did a flip over, and I could see its eye and its flipper, and you can hear on my Instagram when I did the post saying, oh my God, I saw its eye. But I was so shocked at how close that we got to it. So that was amazing. And you can also see that footage on my Insta. And Pepe says that scientists call this event, which I didn't realize this, but when you're doing whale watching and a whale chooses to interact with you, so very close to you, to the boat, it's actually scientifically called a mugging, but she calls it a hugging. And fun fact, also, Pepe was explaining to us that the mother actually pumps the milk into the water, and that's how the baby feeds. So, and baby whales put on 45 kilograms a day while they're during this migration. That's how much weight they put on. Isn't it fascinating? So if you are here in whale season, which is May to October, this is something it's a must do. You absolutely have to look up whale songs with an S and go out with Pepe, because she's just so passionate and remarkable. And the boat leaves from Noosaville. And can I just say, segue into Noosaville? Oh my God. Like, I had heard, we'd been to Noosa before, but for some reason, we hadn't been over to Noosaville. And this has got to be the region's best kept little quaint village secret, because this little stunning strip of boutiques and cafes is right across the road from the water. And we loved it so much, like the feel of it. It's got a really good vibe. It's just got that holiday sort of vibe, and it's so pretty that we started looking at that, as you do, the cost of houses. So you can get the most gorgeous apartment, which I shouldn't be telling anyone, but it's going to set you back about a cool 1.4 million for a little apartment, and say a low-rise block right overlooking the water. I'm like, Dave, can we just sell the house now, get the 17 through school, and we are gone. So back to the whales. I'm going to give Pepe the final word on this. So take a listen to how passionate she is about this experience.
So I spent many years in Hawaii with the dolphins, spending a lot of time in the water with the dolphins and really learning a lot from them and with them. And the whales are just an extension of that. They're all part of that incredible intelligence, and they just affect us as deeply as the dolphins. So by taking people out, you get to live the dream. And we're buena out. And I just, it's so beautiful. But bringing this land and just seeing the joy that brings then, and to learn more about them, So I work with all sorts of things. I also study animal communication, and I brought out to Australia one of the world's leading animal communicators. So I'm always practicing the animal communication all the time. That's something that's quite new for a lot of people to understand, that the whole animal kingdom communicates telepathically with each other. We can do that. It's not a gift that only some people have. It's you just got to practice all the time. So when I'm with the whales, like when that calf was coming towards me, I'm telepathically communicating with that whale all the time, saying, we love you, you're safe, you're welcome here. So, they feel that.
And she sounds just fantastic. So whale watching was not the only thing you did. I saw that you also went for a hike too. I mean, would it be a trick for you if you didn't go for a hike?
You know me too well. And so, no, it would be. So we wandered down. We were staying at the Rise, and we only had a few hours. So we went for a few hours through the Noosa National Park, and we only turned back because we were running out of time for dinner. So we just didn't have a chance to explore it all. But there's about 2,800 hectares, more than that, 883 hectares to explore, and it wraps around the headland. So it goes right round to Coolum. So this hike is amazing. Like, it hugs the coast initially, and then it just, and then it goes more inland and over. And so you can even spot whales in whale season if you took the time to actually sit down and take a look. And there's also some endangered bird species too. But the best thing I think about this park, this incredible national park, is that it's so close to Noosa. So it's literally just a couple of minutes, the starting point from the shopping strip, and there's a boardwalk on that first part too, so it makes it pretty accessible for everyone.
Yeah, it's a fantastic hike. Look, we haven't stopped here yet in the things that you did, because from hiking, you went biking as well, didn't you? I mean, a woman could get tired just watching your reels on this trip. I had to have a Bex and a nice lie down. So tell us about the biking.
We did. We went biking, but they were e-bikes. That was easy. So we went out with By Earth and Ocean, which run e-bike tours, and we were with our tour guide on the day was a Kiwi called Matt Watts, and he works in corporate actually in the business, but he also takes the occasional tour, and because he loves it so much, so he opted to take us. And And so they start in Noosaville, and you're taken on a short drive with the bikes on. They load them up on the back of a van, and can I just say, there's an amazing distillery across the road from that office. So when you get back, you can go for a sneaky drink. So anyway, and they make gin there. And it's incredible gin. I had the best gin and tonic. Anyway, back to the biking. So so the van takes you up to the summit of Mount Tinbua, and it's about a 500-meter walk to the summit, and you have these most incredible views of the hinterland. And from there, you then jump on the bikes and head all the way down. So it's super steep, and it was a lot of fun. So, and then part of they do a variety of length of e-bike tours around the place, but part of the one we did, part of it went through the trail and through the forest, and then it also passes through the road that was actually the original road to get to Cooroy, but they've actually blocked it off, and it's completely closed off. And what they only use this road now for a few things, which is so fascinating. So they only use it, they maintain it to incredible standard, because there's branches falling on it all the time. So they maintain this road mainly for just 2 weeks of the whole year, which is for the Noosa Hill Climb, which is a car race. And then it's also used as training for the Noosa Triathlon, because it's so freaking steep. We were watching these people come up it was fascinating while watching them. And Matt was going, I bet you they've done that about 5 or 6 times. And their faces were just, the effort that went into this. No wonder people in Queensland are so fit, right? And they, and that's what that road's used for.
Oh, that's so funny. I think I might have cycled there when it very first opened. It was just a small part of it. So it's incredible that it's expanding. But, oh my God, running up and down it. Yes. Are we sitting down yet? Are you sitting down yet, or have you got another activity?
So there is another one. So in true Kirstie style. So, yes, another must-do when you were there is to go kayaking, and we went kayaking through the Everglades. So and the Everglades are actually home to a stingray sanctuary. So this slightly freaked me out when we initially went there, because our guide, Lisa Dore, was saying that there's parts of it that we would actually have to, hop out of the kayaks and walk across the sandbanks. And there are stingrays everywhere. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to stand on it's just going to be my luck. I'm going to stand on a stingray. But she was saying, don't worry about it. They move really quickly and you can see them, and on all her guiding. I said, did you ever stand on one? And she was like, no, I've never stood on one. So after spotting many, many stingrays, I was soon assured that, yep, she was right. They're very large. They vary in size, actually, from the size of like a bird or a large fish to 3 meters long. And because the water's so clear, you can see them really easily. So there was one part, I have to admit, that I still played princess, because the water was deep enough for my husband, for not both of us to be in the kayak. So given my husband's 85 kilos, so heavier than me, much heavier than me, he had to hop out and I got to stay in, and he just dragged me on the sandbank. And I did feel like a complete, royalty sitting in a chariot or something. But I thought, if there's any chance that I don't have to get out and risk standing on a stingray, then I'm doing it. So this tour is 3 hours, and you paddle for most of that. And depending on the wind, it can be a really good workout, man, but it is so worth it. I'll tell you what, apart from seeing these stingrays, which was remarkable, one of the most incredible parts was that the water is so glassy on the creeks that the forest reflects off it, and it's just incredible. It's like looking in a mirror. It's just like glass. So you literally, it's like, it's like a mirror reflection of the forest on the water. And so you're just gliding through, these, the shadows of the trees. It was just so beautiful and pretty and remarkable. So yeah, that's another thing I would say definitely put on your to-do list if you're going.
Oh, I want to go kayaking there now. Stingrays are amazing to watch. So tell me, in all of this, what surprised you about Noosa? Given that so many of us have gone there, are there still surprises?
I think the thing that surprised me the most was there's so much to do so close to Noosa. So all those things I just mentioned are all just 5 minutes away. So you don't have to drive. I hate going on holiday and having to get in the car and drive around. So You don't really have to drive very far, if at all. And I do have to say, even though I don't particularly travel for food like you do, Belle, I know how much you love your food, but and you're hiking and biking, but also you're a foodie.
That make me, thank you. That make me sound like a complete larder. Yeah.
But the food was really good. So my tips, if you're going into town, are if you're going to Noosa, take these tips down for places to eat, because I am telling you right now, you will not be disappointed. So first up is the Noosa Surf Club, which is obviously right in the heart of Noosa. And the view here, I mean, you're overlooking the surf beach, right? Beautiful. But throw on a bucket of prawns and Prosecco and, really good quality food. It was exceptional food. And, you've got me there. Lanai in Noosaville was hands down. We'll put a link in the show notes because you might not know how to pronounce. I might be pronouncing it wrong, or I'll put the link in so you can see where these are. But that was hands down some of the best food either of us have ever eaten, and I don't say that lightly. It was remarkable food. This is a brand new restaurant that's just opened. The interiors are stunning. The dishes are mostly dairy and gluten free, and the presentation was just so on point. It was like art on a plate. Like, it was just exceptional. And then the other one I would say not to miss is Light Years Asian Bar and Diner, which is, it's at Noosa Junction, and it's so cool. They actually have 5 restaurants around the country. They've got one in Perth, and I think the rest of them are in Queensland. And the food here was again just exceptional Asian, and it was a real sensory overload. So both the food and the interiors, but yeah, again, like a definite must do if you're gonna go up there.
Oh, yum. So, Noosa's food, phenomenal. But given that you haven't been back for more than a decade, did it live up to expectations? I think this question is a bit of a Dorothy Dixter, really.
Look, I have to say, having only been up there with toddlers, we didn't go to Noosaville, and we just went up with, actually when my youngest son was turning 1, and we sort of just hung out in Noosa, really. I love Noosaville. It's just a place now that I am just adore. It's so much quieter and calmer than the main street, but Hastings Street of Noosa, and there's so much to do. Like I said before, most of those things, except the national park, obviously, are from Noosaville. So, but it was also about how the people we met talked about it, and we always talk about this when we go somewhere, that it's always made special by the people, right? A place, there's nothing beats meeting people behind a place, and they're so passionate about it. So from Liesl, who was the guide on the kayak, who was so excited to see stingrays, and she does those tours, all the time. She's out there weekly. And yet she was so excited every time we saw a stingray. To Kiwi Matt on our bike, who was telling us about how, there's so much investment going into making the biking trails, working on them and extending them, and how much there is to do with the great outdoors. And when we were standing on that lookout point, he couldn't get enough of it, and I was thinking, dude, you must be up here all the time, But he just loved it. He just kept saying how special it was. And then Peppy and her love of those whales and those dolphins, and as she said, forget about a mugging. It's all about a hugging. And to be honest, that's sort of how I felt. So everyone just it does really feel like everyone just wraps you up in a bit of a hug, and so it will definitely not be 10 years before we go back.
Oh, I think you're going to be part of that Melbourne migration. I love it. No, you made me want to go back. I haven't been back for a few years. If you want to find out more about the places that Kirstie's mentioned, we'll put them in the show notes. And you can also visit the website visitnoosa.com.au.
Next up, Belle takes us to Tasmania's Central Highlands, where wine, wombats and walking are all on the menu at the beautiful Pumphouse Point.
Love Tassie. Can I just put in a full disclosure? My dad comes from Tasmania, so I do have a vested interest in this destination.
Oh, so great. There's so much to do in Tassie. I love it, love it, love it. And so where were you on this visit, Belle?
I was in the Central Highlands, so at Lake St Clair. So fun fact, Lake St Clair is Australia's deepest freshwater lake.
And this is at the southern end of the Cradle Mountain Lake St Clair National Park. So it's actually halfway between. It's equidistant to Launceston and to Hobart as well. So it's about 2.5 hours west of Hobart on the Lyell Highway. And if you're coming from Lunny, you're going via Longford as well.
And where did you stay while you were there?
Well, this was the whole reason I was there at the moment. I visited Pumphouse Point, which is this incredible hotel in the wilderness. I have wanted to go here for years. It is set, so the setting is mountains, glacial lakes, ancient myrtle forests. It's just the most dramatic scenery. The thing about, I mean, it's a strange name for a hotel, right? Pumphouse Point, because the whole thing is it's hinged around an old pump house, which was built in the 1940s by the Tasmanian Hydroelectricity Commission, because of course Tassie runs its electricity on hydro, and the pump house was built. The sole reason for it is this Art Deco building for housing a giant pump. And then on the shore house, it had all of the other machinations for the Hydro Commission. And then it was actually converted into an 18-room property about 10 years ago by a fantastic architectural firm, Cumulus Studio. So what it is, I mean, it's incredible because you've got this absolute industrial heritage, this machinery of building, and then inside it you've got these absolutely beautiful, quite pared back rooms that are built into what was the pump house. So they barely changed the exterior, and the buildings are just weathered. They're 70-year-old buildings in this really harsh environment. But when you go inside, it is absolute simple luxury. It's comfort, and it does not make any apology that the origins of it was a pump house. Yeah, and the rooms in it, and the rooms in it are just looking out on these glacial peaks of the Cradle Mountain Lake St Clair National Park. And it's such a distinctive property because to reach the pump house, it's actually set in the lake, and you have to walk this 250-meter flume, which is a long walkway that takes you out into the lake to get to the rooms. And then there's also more rooms on shore.
Gotta love a property with a story like that. Like it's just so it's so nice to stay somewhere that's a little bit unique. You get sick of staying in the same old places, and it's great when it's got such an interesting history. So why should people go there now? Sort of what makes it a great place to visit now?
Well, they've just opened 2 new retreats, which are back on shore because you can't build more onto a pump house. And these are part of a more than a $2 million refurbishment and a development by the pump house owners, which is the NRMA. So hold that thought for that one. So these 2 new retreats are just take the whole thing up a notch. They are separate buildings and they're new, but they're built from timbers and stone from around the region, and they're hidden into the landscape, and they are just so dramatic. They've got these incredible views over the lakes, over the mountains. In the rooms in the pump house and the rooms in the shore house, they've got an element of communal living to them. So while you have your beautiful room with these full length windows looking out onto the mountains, then you have a communal. It's kind of got almost like a walker's retreat feel about it. You've got communal kitchens and stuff. You go down, that's where you have your cup of tea, sitting in front of big fires, looking at the view. But the retreats are just that bit more secluded as well. So they're fully self-contained, incredible beds. From the bed, of course, you've got these views, your wood-fired stove. I don't think I've ever been on a press trip where we just spent an afternoon playing Scrabble. I just thought it was one of those places where you just rug up with your gorgeous knits and your beanies and things like that, and walk around the area. You have deep baths. You wake up early to watch the sun rising over the mountains. You sit in front of your fire and you just really are in the moment. And I just and these retreats. This is also what kind of blew my mind a little bit. And this is going to make me sound like an absolute raging food obsessed tragic, which is possibly true. But they're stocked with everything in them. You wouldn't have to leave. And everything is so Tasmanian, from the coffee that's supplied, from
the wines, and I counted 7 bottles of wine in there, red, white, and sparkling. It was like from really unusual. Well, the frightening thing is that they refresh everything daily, so you could get yourself in a bit of trouble if you didn't plan it right. So, they just got, these incredible picnic packs, Tasmanian wines. It really is an exercise in Tasmaniana. I just made that word up. Does that work? Tasmaniana. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Your Australian travel ride of the year. You can make up any word you like. And so what do they actually include? Like, what if I want to go down and stay there and I'm not part of a familiar hosted group, what am I going to get?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, you could just go down there and lock in, because when you stay at Pumphouse, and it's not open it's open only to guests, so you can't even just wander through and have dinner or something. So it is fully catered for. Breakfast and dinner are in a communal restaurant, and they actually encourage people to share tables, and you'd see people just making connections, and talking about why they were there, and maybe they were celebrating an event. There was people just were sharing their stories. There was a guy who'd been working in paramedics and was there decompressing and stuff like that. And people are talking about how they lived in Sydney, but they were from the US and missed the mountains and things. So it's just really, it's got a curious communal vibe that I think is really unique. Often in, particularly in hotels, you cocoon yourself away from other people. And that is not like it. And again, I said, the everything that's in the retreats is totally Tasmanian, and that is the same on the menu. It is things like, Tasmanian blue-eyed Trevelyan, local lamb, which you experience at breakfast and dinner in the Shorehouse dining room. And and I think one of the biggest delicious things there was actually they were making hot sourdough every day, all through the day. So if at one moment you said, I think I need a bit of hot sourdough, then they would just whip it out of the oven, and you could go there and just lock yourself in and eat yourself into a coma. When you're staying at the retreats, it also includes. Well, I gave it a go. I gave it a hard shot. And then when you're staying at the retreats, it also has a couple of hosted experiences. So there was a whiskey tasting with Sullivan's Cove, which is based down in Hobart, and that is one of the absolute incredibly expensive whiskies. These single cask whiskies that they only produce a couple hundred bottles. So some of those bottles sell for thousands of dollars when they're at auction. And are very rare. And another one that we did was a chocolate tasting from the House of Anvers, which was just fascinating, because you kind of go, oh yeah, chocolate and stuff like that. I can take it or leave it. But we were eating these single estate, single origin chocolates and learning how to taste them. They were pairing them with things like Tasmanian stouts, and so you're drinking beer and chocolate, champagne and chocolate, sparkling wine and chocolate, and because everything is so Tasmanian, you really feel like you've just had this little gourmet adventure without leaving your very beautiful space. It's around
it's all gonna help you float better in Maldives, right? I've seen that photo of you floating on your back.
I'm not sharing that one.
Ocean.
That one does need to be shared out in public. Yeah.
No, you look gorgeous. So who's it best suited to?
Well, it is actually an adults-only retreat, so no kids, and I'm kind of okay. I'm kind of okay with that. The retreat, Pumphouse says that it's ideal for couples, honeymooners, and adventurers seeking a bit of indulgence after a day of bushwalking. I would say if you had ever thought of doing the Overland Track, which is, to my mind, Australia's best multi-day walk, this would be my last night stay. So, I mean, it is a luxury resort, and the retreats are priced actually about double the price of the regular rooms. So you're looking at about $2,000 a night, and but that is with everything. That is with all dining, food, drinks, experiences, which are replenished daily. Cannot push that one enough. So if you drunk everything, it just turns up again the next day.
And then if your partner finds it in your suitcase when you get home.
I may have travelled home with a little bit of extra chocolate, extra hand luggage. Yes, definitely. And can I look, hot tip on this one? It is because Pumphouse is now owned by NRMA Resorts. If you are an NRMA member, you actually get an automatic discount of about 10%, and they will even let you join on the spot when you turn up at the property to get that discount. So great little insider tip.
So what if you don't do the overland track and just go there just to eat all the food and drink all the wine? What are you doing when you're there?
Well, they do have short walks around the property, and all of those walks, you're following the shore of Lake St Clair. Tiny little walks and stuff. We're talking like half an hour trots around the place because you just ate yourself a second backside at dinner. And you think, I've really got to get out and do something. I think that walking is really the best thing to do there. You've also got history. I took a book with me, and you just read and just be in the moment, or playing Scrabble and things like that. Around that area, you've got fishing in St Clair Lagoon, which is, if you are up for fly fishing for brown trout or rainbow trout, I've got this weird fascination with fly fishing. They also have massage services there as well. And if you go to the Lake St Clair National Park office, which is only about 5 minutes drive away, it is the trailhead. So I'm sorry, it is very walky. It is the trailhead. It is the end of the overland track, which is that 65-kilometre 6-day trek coming down from Cradle Mountain to Lake St Clair. But then it's got a whole series of fabulous walks from 1 hour to a day walk. There's an Aboriginal cultural heritage walk, which is absolutely brilliant. A really gorgeous little walk called the Waters Meet Trail, which I like because it's also wheelchair and, if you've got kids, pram friendly as well. So it's completely accessible. You've got a wide, mostly flat track, and it rolls into the slightly longer Platypus Walk, which is an absolutely beautiful 1.5 hour walk to the lake edge. But the other thing to do there is wildlife spotting. So, it's just full of native wildlife in the area. So we saw wallabies, paddy melons, which are those gorgeous fat-bottomed little cousins to the wallabies. They're just beautiful, sweet-faced little things. We saw echidnas. There were quolls as well, and of course wombats. If you ever wanted to see a wombat in the world, the place is riddled with them. There was one has taken up residence at Pumphouse Point, and it just goes there and mows the grass and just wanders through. Even as the snow pelting down, it just wanders, and it's completely unconcerned. You've got to stay a couple of meters away from them and not to scare them. But they were not easily scared. So there's wildlife crossings everywhere, and you'll see the sign saying wildlife here. And it was kind of funny because it's like, be caution, wildlife crossing ahead. And we get ahead and there's actually a wombat walking across the road. And I thought, wombats can read in Tasmania. It's gorgeous. They know exactly where to cross. So that trailhead at the national park is really is a great ground zero to base yourself. So, you don't have to do the overland track, although I would thoroughly recommend it because I think it's one of the best multi-day hikes that I've ever done. But Tassie also has a collection of 60 great short walks. So there are 3 at this point: Echo Point, Shadow Lake, and the Mount Rufus Walk. And they range from like 3 to 4 hours to a full 7-day walk. And actually the Echo Point one incorporates the Lake St Clair ferry, which takes you out to Echo Point. It's a 28-kilometre round trip, and it goes out 3 times a day. So, yes, you can do walks, but then you've also got those wheelchair accessible walks, and then you've got the ferry as well. That is actually, here's a little bit of a fun fact for you, it is Australia's highest altitude ferry service, and it's a great way to reach walks that start and finish from Narcissus Hut, which is located at the northern end of Lake St Clair. Yeah, it's Kirstie, because I was thinking of you for this one because I do know you like a good walk. I know you also don't mind a little gin tasting as well, so I did take one for the team on this one. As I was leaving the national parks head office, the parks office, with all of its maps and things like that, I just happened to walk past a set of shelves with gin, selling a gin, and this bloke says to me, "Would you like to taste a gin?" I'm like, "Oh, it's 9:30 in the morning or something." Yeah, just we'll see what we can do. The lodge at St Clair Lodge actually has been distilling its own gin, which is called Trappers and Miggins Overland Gin, sold in the restaurant that is there looking out over the lake. $120 a bottle, free plug for you. I will put the address in the show notes. And so that was just a nice way to wrap up that very Tasmanian experience, and that very local experience as well. But when you are driving back down to Hobart, of course, in Hobart, you've got all of those great things like Mona. But you can also stop at New Norfolk on the way through, which is home to the award-winning Agrarian Kitchen, which is part restaurant, part cooking school, and part kitchen garden. And if you don't have time to do that whole restaurant thing, or you're absolutely full, it also has a kiosk. I think this is a bit of a sly aside that they don't necessarily tell everybody. It also has a kiosk selling these delicious pies and pastries, so you can even pack yourself a little picnic. And New Norfolk is, New Norfolk it's an amazing little town. Okay, full disclosure again, this may be the town where my dad comes from, so I did pop in and have a cup of tea with my Auntie Molly. And I got to say, when I was a kid visiting family there, I totally didn't appreciate New Norfolk it's just beautiful. It is also Tassie's 4th oldest European settlement and the 12th oldest in Australia, which is insane. And speaking of insane, actually, it was also home to the Willow Court Asylum. So you can actually take a ghost tour through there now. When I was a kid, it was still functioning, the asylum, but now it's turned over to tourists and ghosts.
Yes. No, I love that. I love New Norfolk. It's so beautiful. It's such a quaint pretty little place. And walks and wombats and gin, right? You've just got me right there. So what was the weather like when you went, and what's a good time of year to go?
Well, I went in early October, which is right in the middle of spring. So I was on the 10th of October. On that day, I experienced snow, hail, high wind, temperatures of about 2 degrees. And the funny thing was that you cannot just look at what the temps are in Hobart and go, oh, look, it's 12 degrees, we'll be fine. It's 10 degrees difference, Like I said, wombats mowing the ground in the snow. I wasn't going to pack my hiking boots for the weekend, but I relented, and I'm so glad that I did, because I really think even just for a couple of hours walk, you need to have the right gear, and they do enforce that at the national park. Yep. So even for just an hour or two's walk, I would pack I packed my rain gear, I packed my boots and stuff, because this month has seen several deaths in our alpine wilderness due to fast changing weather in the mountains, in Cradle Mountain and also in the Victorian High Country. So I think the moral of the story is better to be over prepared than under. And the national parks has also shared some tips, because mobile phone coverage is spotty at best. If you are not on Telstra, forget about it. So don't rely on your phone. And the weather is spectacular and spectacularly changeable. So there you go. There's a wrap of the Central Highlands. If you'd like to visit Pumphouse Point, you can check out the website, pumphouseppoint.com.au. And to find out more what's new in Tassie, you can visit discovertasmania.com.au, and we'll put all those details in the show notes.
Amazing. Love Tassie. And stay tuned for our next episode, as we are back to regular programming, and I'm bringing you an interview with environmental scientist, author, filmmaker, philanthropist and speaker, and Australian of the Year, Tim Jarvis. Tim has undertaken 2 of the harshest and most extreme Antarctic adventures, Douglas Mawson and Ernest Shackleton's survival journeys, which he did in original clothing with the same gear used a century ago. Remarkable. He talks to us about his latest expedition and how travel can inspire conservation. And if you're enjoying our podcast, please leave us a rating and a review. On Apple Podcasts, click on our profile, scroll down to the bottom to leave a star rating. And if you're on Spotify, go to our main page and click the 3 dots underneath our photo, or simply drop us a line at hello@theworldawaits.au. We love hearing from you. Thanks for joining us on the World Awaits Summer Series, and we look forward to seeing you at our regular programming next week.
That's a wrap for The World Awaits this week. Click to subscribe anywhere you listen to your favourite pods.
Thanks for listening. See you next week.